Okay, so starting with review question number 2, page 438, to what extent are cash tips treated as remuneration subject to federal income tax withholding? That's just a big fancy word that means what?
The federal guidelines require 8%, but it should be 10 at 100%.
Okay, so first off, what's remuneration a fancy word for? You looked it up. Good girl. I can't tell you how many years people come in and go, I didn't know what that meant. It's like, I think you could use, in the old days you would say a dictionary. That's really quaint now. You would look it up and it means, yeah, money. It's compensation. It's a fancy word for compensation. So what you're talking about, Ben, is actually the amount of tips that they have to identify as having earned them. This wants to know what is the withholding requirements. Right? Did you get that? What are the withholding requirements on tips treated as remuneration? What?
Is it the 4 steps so that 4 things are really?
To what extent are cash tips treated as remuneration? Amanda?
I said that they're normal. I don't know if I'm right.
They're normal. So, yes. Okay. But what kind of tips? Reported tips? Allocated tips? Both? Reported tips. That's, I think, where they were going with this. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, yeah. They're essentially just treated like any other income. What do I take the tax on the tips out from then? Where do I get the tax? Do I have you come in and like I do a calculation, you pull it out of your pocket and give it to me? I take it out of the paycheck. But what happens when the paycheck isn't big enough to take it all? You take it all, call it good, and then the employee has to do what? They're going to have to pay it, but when do they do that? How do they do that? So if I'm only cutting you a check for $100 a week and you're making $1,000 a week in tips, is your $100 enough to absorb the taxes?
No.
No. So how do you get that money to the IRS? If you wait till the end, you're going to get a penalty. You have to pay quarterly estimates. What are those called? You file that on a 1040 ES. You have to pay those quarterly with a 1040 ES. If you don't, yeah, you've got to get even at the end of the year, but you're going to have an underpayment penalty. Okay. Number 3. For each of the following, identify whether or not the wages are exempt from withholding. So if I pay you 3 weeks vacation pay, do I have to take tax on it? Sure you do. How about advances to a sales rep? It's exempt, but only if they have a what? It did not go far enough. They have to have a what in place? An accountable plan. If it's a company that doesn't have an accountable plan, then the answer to number B would be non-exempt.
An accountable what? Sorry.
Plan. An accountable plan is just, you can just go Google them. An accountable plan just says, hey, if I give you money to go travel as an advance, you've got to bring me back the receipts and reconcile the cash with the advance within 20 days or 30 days. It's just got to comply with the Internal Revenue Code. In other words, I can't give you a bunch of money and maybe you bring some back and maybe you don't, because then they're worried it's really compensation and it should show up on your W-2.
Does that go for like employer paid training when someone's going to training for work and they give them a cash advance for like the hotel and stuff like that, and then they get reimbursed later?
Yeah, I bet you it would be the same. Sure. Whenever I'm giving you money, I'm your employer. The IRS is worried that what I'm giving you is compensation. So they're going to be very strict about if that's an advance, how am I getting that back? And how am I documenting that? C, weekly wages paid the housekeeper in a college fraternity. That was just one of the very specific exemptions. D, monthly salary paid Reverend Cole Carpenter. Ministers are excluded, exempt from FIT withholding. And payments under a workers' comp law. But I think it's after 6 months.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that. Good question.
Yeah, that's after 6 months.
Sounded like it said to me at the end of the year that they were hired.
I'm sorry, for the last one, for E? Did it? My understanding is that it's exempt after 6 months of sick time taken. Okay, number 5. What's the maximum amount that an employee can shelter into a 401k plan?
16.5.
Is that what the book said?
Was it?
No, it's 18.5, and this year it's 19,000. Goes up like $500 a year. I think the book, you probably, did you maybe look it up on a website that was
I don't
old?
remember. I swear it's. I don't know.
It was 16.5 in like 2015.
No, I wrote 16.
Number 8, employer contributions into employees' HSA. I will tell you, probably 80% of my clients this year, tax clients, have got this situation. What is an HSA and why have they grown in so much popularity and how do we treat them for tax? Take a shot at any of those, Josh.
So an HSA is used to get a high deductible health policy, and it's used just to, so it's pre-tax money that's taken out.
Yeah.
It's just put on a card that you just pay for medical expenses only.
You can get it on a card or maybe not.
Or a check or-
Yeah, whatever. So you can only have an HSA if you have an HDHP, high deductible health plan, right? So if you've got one of those rare birds anymore where you've only got like a $500 a year deductible or something, you can't have an HSA. You can only have one if you have a high deductible health plan. And I think, can anybody find for me quickly in the book what they identify as high deductible health plan? Because it's way lower. The numbers just looked crazy to me. Let's just look this up really quick because I don't think either the numbers have changed dramatically.
1350 for self coverage and 2700 for family.
Yeah, 1350 for self-only coverage and 27 for family coverage.
All right, let's look at what it says here. So this is, whenever I have a question, I just go right to irs.gov and figure out, yeah, see, those are crazy numbers. This is what the amounts are. If you were or were considered an eligible individual for the entire year, it's $3,450 if it's just yourself, and $6,900 if you're a family, is what high deductible health plan limits are.
Each roll,
Sure.
on the left is
Well, what the heck? So what are the two different numbers here then?
Is that most maximum?
If you were or were considered and you did not change your type of coverage. Okay, well, I guess I stand corrected. It was these high numbers forever. That must be part of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act to bring that down. But I have to tell you, this is not at all in my mind a high deductible health plan. If you have a $1,350 a year deductible on your health plan, that's pretty darn good.
Well, I think it depends on the income, though. Like if you're making chicken scratch.
That's plenty of money out of pocket.
That's
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the amount.
certainly. Yeah, certainly.
But an average person makes obviously over a certain amount. That's not.
Right. Okay, so that's the number we're using, 1,350 and 2,700, and that coalesces with your book?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I stand corrected.
1350.
Looked it up. Okay. What number was that? 8? Okay, so are they taxed? Do you pay FIT on the amount you put into an HSA? No. Do you pay SIT on the amount you put into an HSA? Do you pay FICA on the amount you put into an HSA?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
You do. HSA is only pre-income tax. You have to pay FICA on it, which is exactly the same as your contributions to a what? 401k. Simple. 403b. The only thing you don't have to pay FICA on is what? One thing. Flex. That's the only thing. And how much can we put in a year into our flex? 2,650, I think. 2,650. Okay, good job. Lots to think about. Hey, what if your employer puts money into your HSA? Is that taxable to you? No. And so you're seeing more and more. My other question was, why am I seeing, 5 years ago, I didn't know anybody with an HSA. That's not true. 7 years ago, let's say. Now probably 80% of my clients have them. Why? What's happened? It's employers cannot keep up with the cost of premium increases. So they're having to go to higher deductible plans and then put, $50 a month into your HSA.
I worked with a place, they went from a normal insurance to a high deductible. It was cheaper for them to pay the premium on health with the high deductible one and give us the money for the deductible benefit.
Literally. There is something very askew. Did anybody happen to catch any of the coverage on the Hill with the big pharma companies? They're really being held to the hot wire as far as these extraordinary prices. Lots of the drugs in America, they charge 6, 7, 8% of what we pay in Europe or Canada. So I pay $1,000 a month for my prescription. I can go to Canada and get it for $110. Or I can go to Norway and get it for $63. There's some big problems with that. Do you know what the pharmacy industry's, not excuse, but what their mantra is about why they charge such exorbitant amounts? Nobody know. So the quote-unquote average price to bring a drug to market, so through all the human trials and the FDA and the quality assurance and the quality control, is evidently around $80 to $100 million. And then they're only patented for 18 years. And at that 18 years, the chemistry is essentially released under the Freedom of Information Act, and then all the generics can come in. So if you've got an 18-year patent, the day that you think you've got a bead in your research lab on something like a tamoxifen, you patent it. Well, of that 18-year patent, it might take 8 or 9 or 10 years to get it to market. So then you've only got 8 or 9 or 10 years left to extract profits to cover all that research and development.
Well, I guess kind of like a BS excuse though.
Well,
Canada and Europe can get things for so much cheaper. You know what I mean? It's all about money.
It is all about money. I do believe that they would not be able to engage in all the high-level research if they couldn't if they couldn't pay themselves back for the research and development. But the bottom line is all these other countries have caps on pharmaceutical costs.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with our lobbying system is we have not, we've not mastered that. So, okay, 12. Rhonda Graham single, her wages are paid weekly under the percentage method. What's the amount of one with weekly withholding allowance? And then how much is it for semi-monthly? And this is just going to page T-2 and pulling off the numbers. Right? No big deal, just pulling off the numbers from page T-2. 14, Trowbridge Company has just completed processing of its year-end payroll. It's distributed all of its weekly checks. The payroll department is now computing the amount of the annual bonus. What method may be used by the company in determining the amount? Do they have choices of how they do it? Okay, go ahead, Warren.
I don't know to
Oh, okay, Scott?
They can do the 22% supplemental where they can bundle with the last paycheck, take out the taxes, and take out the taxes for already paid.
Yep, so say I'm high income. Did anybody remember what the top federal income tax bracket is? Roughly? Is it in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s? I think it's 37. So if I'm in the 37% bracket, I'm high income, I make $400,000 a year. and they're going to bonus me out 40 grand. Do I want them to do the flat rate? Think about this for a second. No. Okay. Rhett's shaking his head no, and Amanda's saying yes. Why do you say no, Rhett?
I say no because normally, I'm trying to justify my intuitive response naturally to that.
So you're in a 37% bracket,
Yep.
highest marginal bracket.
Yep.
I bonus you out 40 grand, and I choose the flat supplemental 22% method as your employer. Are you happy or not happy?
I mean, I guess that
How much tax am I going to have to pay?
a lot, like, what?
37%. That's my highest marginal bracket.
Yeah,
So if your employer only took out 22%,
whoever.
you're going to owe the remainder at tax time. Nobody likes that.
If you don't do it.
Sure, you're going to get more money on your bonus check. Yay. And then you're going to spend it, and then you're going to owe it. Boo. Everybody would rather have money. I shouldn't say everybody, but I encourage all of my clients to take, no matter what the situation is, to take money as you go.
If you're working somewhere, you're getting a $40,000 bonus, you probably got plenty of money that you're not going to worry about.
You would think, but can I tell you, I have seen it, if you make 20 grand a year, you spend 20 grand a year. You make 200 grand a year, you spend 200 grand a year. You make 2 million a year, you spend 2 million a year. I mean, you'd think, but that's not true at all. Just the level of things you purchase, the amount of debt, actually, interestingly enough, this is anecdotal. I can't really quote a piece of research, but this is just from working with people, lots of different income levels. High net worth people have the same amount of debt compared to their income as mid and low level people. So it's like, how can you possibly need to borrow money when you make $800,000 a year? All of a sudden you're buying really beautiful pieces of art. Or you've got a $2 million boat in the harbor in San Diego. I mean, it's just,
They level up their spending.
you level up your spending, and that's why everybody has to take personal finance and understand why you don't get caught in that trap. Okay. So that's the two ways you can do it. You can either lump it together, which honestly, if you're in any other bracket other than the 22%, so conversely, what if I'm in the 10% tax bracket? Sorry? I'm going to get a bigger refund, but in that case, what's the optimal tax situation? Do you want a refund? Do you want it due, or do you want to break even? Why?
You loan money to
Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, like, you got what you should have throughout the year.
Yeah,
Right?
but why don't you want a big refund?
Because then you didn't have it throughout the year. Like, that's-
Right, why would you want to loan the IRS tax-free or interest-free money?
Yeah.
If I'm getting a $5,000 refund, I've given the IRS $425 a month to use of my money for free all year. Now, with all that said, lots of people get those kinds of refunds because of earned income credits, and you can't get that on your paycheck every month. So that's non-negotiable. But I'm talking about, say, you're a couple and you each make 80 grand, and at the end, all you've got is W-2s. I'm taking lots of leaps here. And you each make 80 grand, and you get a $5,000 refund, you're giving the IRS $425 a month that you shouldn't be. Yeah.
So I guess my question is, why would you ever use the 22% method?
If it's easy. So if I've got 1,000 people I'm bonusing out, believe me, I don't want to go into every single one of your salary fields and increase it for the bonus and then have to go back and change it. I just want to do a supplemental run, throw the bonuses into one field, 22% and boom. Good question.
So then,
It's easier for the employer.
does the employer have to notify you that they did that then, so you know to do the difference yourself?
I don't think that there's specific requirements, but yeah, you'd hope. You have to understand, most people don't have a clue about any of this.
Yeah, 'cause we get bonuses at my office if we reach a certain amount of production,
Mhm.
accounts receivable back, and
Yeah.
I honestly don't know how they
Take it.
do it.
Next time you get a bonus, check your pay stub.
Well, it doesn't say how they did it. They just say bonus, X amount of money. They don't specify how they.
Oh, if they did the flat supplemental, you would have to see a line item for that. So they're doing the first of these methods where they're just putting it with your gross wages.
Okay.
Okay, 15, great questions. What's Form 944?
I have another question. So
Please.
say if your employer didn't put it on your paycheck, they just like gave you like a 50 or something like that, a 50 cash.
Okay, did you guys hear Warren's example? So my employer just comes up and is like, hey, great job, here's $50.
Is that legal or?
Well, so what's the problem? That $50 has to go through what? The payroll system. But we've learned about grossing up. Is the $50 really $50 on your W-2? No, it's some amount larger than that. That's what we learned when we grossed up, right? So perfect example, my very first year working for a CPA firm, we had a lot of medical clients. And I don't remember how I saw this. I was looking in the general ledger and I saw a bunch of checks for $500 cut on like 12/19, December 19th. That's weird. There's like 30 checks for $500. What the heck? Well, this doc had handed those out at the Christmas party and run it through like miscellaneous expense. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's payroll. And it's not, the $500 is the net, not the gross. So I did the calculations and had to call him and say, you've got to reissue W-2s because your W-2s are wrong. You owe a chunk of money for a 941 deposit. You owe us 3 hours of accounting fees because that's how long it took me to crunch through this. It's not very happy. It's like, couldn't you just leave it miscellaneous? And I mean, I may have made a different choice now, but I was very young and everything was by the books.
Where I work now, they do with your next paycheck shows that you got an extra so much money as a bonus. Put that into just paycheck.
Yeah, sure. So they just roll it in. Yeah, I mean, if you've got a decent system, that's what happens. A 944 is if you're really small, you only owe $1,000 all year in employment taxes. It's just a little one page, and it replaces the whats. It replaces 4 941s. You just have to do it once a year because you're so tiny. And that was 15. 17, what's the penalty for filing W-2s that don't have proper numbers on them?
$250 per one.
The question was mismatched social security and names.
Oh, is that a different penalty?
Yeah, it's $250. I'm like, no.
Where did they have the penalties?
It's on page. Yeah, 426.
I try not to. Okay, yeah. So this is, the answer's wrong. It is 250. 250 per form. The reason being is that you've got to, and I mean, like, this is the whole basis of our system of cross-checking income with tax returns. So if somebody's transposed a social security number on a W-2, the whole system falls apart. So you really, what they want to know is, if I'm sitting there and I'm processing a ton of payroll, that I have some review mechanism that a second set of eyes goes over my input to make sure that it matches the W-4 that the employee gave me. I mean, like, I work alone in my tax practice, so before a tax return goes out the door, I make myself, and believe me, you don't want to take the time and it's not particularly stimulating work, but you've got to go back. Oh, I feel like I need to go back over everything and cross-check. Did I get your kid's date of birth correct? Did I get your kid's social security number correct? You know, because that's all, that'll get your return kicked back out, and talk about losing credibility. God, my accountant couldn't even get my social security number input correctly. How do I know this? Because it happened to me in my earlier years, and now I have a really strict review mechanism, which is the same thing here, why they penalize you if you don't. Okay, discussion question number 1. So this is a cook. He gets 2 meals a day. He's got to have meals on the premises. Is it included in his wages? Why not?
Because it's required to stay on.
It's for the employer's convenience. What if they just said, hey, we will, if you want to stay on, fill in the blank, Tumblr's campus in San Jose, and we'll give you a 4-star meal every day for lunch.
Then yes, that's an option.
It's an option. And they have to track that. You have to like scan in and out for the lunches and all that. And you will get, it's going to show up on your W-2, so it's not a free lunch. There is no free lunch, right? Ha ha ha.
What if they give you the option to stay and work? That's still technically an option to do.
I would definitely run that through employment attorneys and make sure that it is written in a way that it goes on the side of the tax law I want it to. How's that for a disclaimer answer? That's my answer to lots of things anymore. I would consult your employment attorney. Okay. Number 4, Rena Reynolds, one of your workers, just came into the payroll department and said, I'm going to amend my W-4 so that I get an additional $10 withheld a week, then I'm going to have a fat refund. First off, her idea of a fat refund is very different from mine, but okay. $520 coming her way. Is that a good idea? No, it's not, but realistically, if you're talking an amount like this, is she really going to take that $10 a week and invest it in some sort of interest bear? I mean, she might, but, you know, Prob's not. So for lots of people, that is how they save money. And I don't have a conflict with that. Well, I can't have a conflict with it. It's their choice. But I will say to people, like, if you're doing something like that so that you can get back $2,000 at one time, because you know that's the only way in God's name you're ever going to have $2,000 at one time, at least give me $700 or $800 of that, and we'll put it into your IRA, right?
I went the route that you would say you wouldn't give advice.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's good. Yep. I'm sorry, I can't give it advice until I know your whole tax situation. Fair enough. I can live with that too. Ben, did you have a question?
That was just,
Same comment? Okay. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And number 5, so here we have Anita Leland. She's a waitress in Atlantis Casino. She reported tips of $467 all year. After she filed her federal income tax return, Leland received a letter from the IRS informing her she had earned $5,260 in tips rather than the $467 she reported, and she owed $1,800 plus in back tips or back taxes. How is the IRS able to determine that, A? And B, if their determination is correct, is Atlantis also subject to a penalty? So first off, who wants to take a shot at whether and how they figured it out? Where did they come up with $5,260?
my thoughts were that the employer is required to submit their records, and in their records, they must have identified that she received that many.
So in a casino, even though you get free drinks when you're sitting losing a couple $100 an hour on the backjack table, that always cracks me up. Yeah, but I was drinking for free. Really? Do you normally drink $200-300 an hour? But when you're sitting at a table, they're giving you free drinks, and you're throwing tips at them, chips usually. I know this because I worked for 2 summers in Tahoe to put myself through graduate school, and it is a sordid set of affairs. That's all I got to say about that. But it was really good money. But it's not as trackable as if I was bartending at Jakers, right? So how did they track it?
I said that it could have been, all tips could have been paid via credit card. And
So
received
that's
their
one
own
very easy way to look at it, but that's not really how tipping occurs on tables. Anybody ever sat at a table?
I don't know.
They throw you chips. They throw you chips. Play money.
You can't keep the chips, you can't sell it, you have to give them back to the owner.
You take the chips up to the cash-in
And that's what they.
table, and you cash them out. Yeah, I don't want to walk around with a bunch of $10 chips as a waitress.
Yeah, so
I want my money.
They would probably keep a record of that.
Maybe keeping a cash-in record at the whatever it's called, the cash table. That's not what it's called. You could show my level of sophistication.
Well, I said that, Atlantis Casino is a food and beverage establishment, so they could have allocated tips, which is easily tracked
They could be tracking it. They could be tracking the 8%. Good point. They,
And that maybe they looked at the other.
the other two things they do, so my first summer in Tahoe, I worked in a low stakes in Harrah's. And in the second summer, I had worked my way up into a high stakes room, and which is obviously better tips. And they have one of the ways that they will, because this is a real thorn in the IRS's side. They estimate there's about a $40 billion a year cash economy in between Vegas and Atlantic City. And only a 40B with a billion with a B, and just only a fraction of that income is reported. And I mean, say what you might, nobody loves taxes, but I'm a school teacher and I pay taxes on everything I make. I guess I feel if you're a waitress, you should pay taxes on all the money you make too. So where's I going with that? Oh, so in the high stakes rooms they have eye in the sky and they just follow everything. So if the IRS is feeling like you've underreported, they'll just pull some tape, and you'll get $100 chips tossed to you. I mean, if they can show a couple times of that, they can extrapolate it and say you've underreported. Second thing they can do is called a lifestyle audit. And if you say, I'm a waitress, I'm living on $21,000 a year in Vegas, but I've got, a $500,000 house in Green Valley, and I drive an SUV, and I vacation in Cabo. It's like, yeah, well, how are you paying for that? And if I can show, my grandpa puts $5,000 a month in my account, great. But if I don't have a bona fide, explanation, the lifestyle of some waiters and waitresses did not correspond. And then what about the Atlantis Casino? Do they have to pay? No, they're not liable to match the underreported. If they were in the situation you're talking about, Jenna, where it was food and beverage and they were supposed to be doing the 8% and the allocated, they're going to be penalized for not complying, but they're not going to be liable for the 7.65. Okay, and then problems 1 through 3. This guy's a waiter at the Deluxe Lounge. The first weekly pay in March, he earned $300 for 40 hours of work, and he reported his tips for February were $500, and the employer withholds the appropriate taxes for the tips from his paycheck. And this guy also pays state income tax at 2%. So his tax, you've got to figure out all of his taxes are based on $800, right? Tax based on tips plus wages. Did you get that?
What? Sorry, I kind of zoned out.
I could see that you were looking at me
Yeah,
like, so the check, the gross check was only for $300,
Yeah.
but you have to take the taxes out on $800.
Yes.
Okay. We've practiced this a couple times, but this is a real sticking point for students.
Yeah, great, yeah, I did that.
So net pay is still only $179?
Right, because the check's only $300.
I see.
Right, see, students want to give them the tips on the check again. You're not paying them the $500. They've got the $500 in their pocket. You're just taking the tips on the whole thing from the gross check. We've done this like 3 or 4 times.
And every time I mess it up. Yes.
The tips are already in their pockets. You're not paying them the tips again. You know that.
Yes.
Yes.
I know it, but I just forget it.
Okay.
I'd be a bad business owner.
Believe me, you would not be paying, yeah, you would not be doing that if this was your money going out the door. Because your business plan would say what you're paying them in gross wages. You're not going to be repaying them their tips.
Part of it though, too, I think it's worse instead of actuality, you're actually paying them money. You're
And,
aware.
that's one of the things that we're constantly striving to do as academics and educators is how do I make this as real worldly as I can? Because no, you're not going to get a word problem in a book when you're running your business. You know that I'm not cutting you a check for $800. I know I'm cutting you a check for $300. Okay, and then 4-2, this is just, do you know how to use the tables? So check your numbers, please, for 4-2. This is posted now, so you can go back if you had any problem with anything, you can go back and check it. I feel like everybody's sleepier when it's snowier.
Except we're so cold that we're shivering.
Ugh. I'm sleepier, I'm kind of crankier, and I'm putting on a few lbs because I'm pretty sedentary. Did get out and go skiing last Friday. That was fun. Your numbers are so off?
Yeah, I think I just got so, I don't know, I get confused easily, as you can tell, this last week in class.
Okay. Facial expressions are golden.
Yeah, that's a giveaway for me.
So, yeah, you're pretty transparent.
I know
But
that.
go back. This is posted on Moodle. If you didn't get the numbers, please go back and check it because this isn't going away. Obviously, you need to know how to calculate fit. Okay.
Can you put in the word on 4-2?
Yep. E.D. Quinn, 925 semi-monthly. So he's got 8 withholding allowances. Yeah, he's not going to have anything taken out of his checks. Because if you look, the exemption or the allowance is $172.90 each. You see that on page T-2?
So it's more than what he makes for the exemption.
His allowances eat up his whole gross wage.
So that one.
So he has no number to take to page T-3 to find tax.
That's why you have a bunch of kids.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Because those guys are kind of like free.
Yeah.
It costs me.
Yeah, my personal favorite. Yeah, I'm really excited. We're pregnant. It's going to be, we're going to get more in our earned income credit. Awesome. Yeah, because the kid's not going to cost you any money. And again, number 3, I'm not going to sit here and go over these. This is posted. Take a look. And let's go through in the last 14 minutes, practice payroll problem number 2. So this is also going to be on that +1 system, right? +1 for all the ones that you got right. One more time. This is based on your attempt. The practice, what I'm doing now with these practice payroll problems is we need to be getting to the point where we're actually doing it right. Okay, so here are the gross wage calculations. Tell me you didn't give them overtime. They're exempt.
Yep.
I didn't give overtime, but I did it.
Oh, shit, you guys. Okay, so this is the point. There's a lot going on in this class, but at some point we need to pull this all together and get all the pieces right. You never pay exempt people overtime.
I love it.
Executive.
It was like it was trying to trick us though. Wait a second.
It wasn't trying to trick you. Well, okay, by giving you the hours.
Hours they work.
Yeah, that's
So
what
then
I,
you start thinking, well, do I need to calculate that?
yeah, that's what I do.
Sometimes.
Sometimes that's part of that. So I think that Sally and Joe were both exempt, weren't they? Huh? Was Owen exempt as well? Caleb was the only one that was not exempt. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see, there she is. So here's her calculation for her gross. Okay, so let's go on. Now we've got to calculate federal income tax withholding. So, for example, if you didn't get the gross right, for 3 of them, nothing else is going to be right, but that doesn't mean you keep getting zapped. Doesn't mean you keep getting zapped over and over.
So our 941 is incorrect because we got one of the things.
Right. You don't get the point for the gross, and you don't get the bonus perfect point. The only way you get 12 out of 12 is if you come right down to the 941 deposit.
What if I'm like $1 off of the ground?
On the gross?
Because
Yeah, well, only on Caitlin and Owen. Otherwise, I'm going to credit.
Oh, and there's no way you would be off on rounding because that's just divided by
No, I
12.
agree, I agree. I'm only off.
Kayla, I could see if this went out, you wouldn't be off a buck, you'd be off
I'm off.
a dime.
You know, a dime.
Yeah,
I'm up at
no problem.
It actually 0.55 cents.
Yes, ma'am.
So for Joe, I didn't do overtime, but I still got like a big number. Do I just multiply?
It's just the salary divided by 26, right, bi-weekly?
Yeah, so it's just the 80 hours, any hours worked over 80 you don't.
It doesn't matter if they're exempt. That's the whole point, remember that? The executives, the professionals, the administrators, the creative professionals, the outside salespeople, the computer specialists, they're exempt from the overtime provisions of the Fair Labor Standards Act. I don't care if you worked 1,000 hours in the last 2 weeks. One more time.
We get that pay no matter what.
They get that pay no matter what. Joe could be in the Bahamas, or Joe could be logging 15-hour days. I don't care. Why would a company then take hours if you're exempt?
So we know if they should be evaluated.
Absolutely. If you guys are all working 110 hours every bi-weekly paycheck, you're going to start falling off like flies at some point because nobody can sustain that. So, yeah, in my case, 2 days. But, so I want to be evaluating my HR needs from a strategic business standpoint. Yeah, we're all software coders and we're trying to, get to something to market. Yeah, we might work 110 hours every bi-weekly period for 6 months, but then I need to reevaluate, do I need more coders, right? Okay, so the next line is fit, and that, here's those numbers. So here, does anyone want to see any more of the calculations for fit?
Oh, yeah, we already discussed that, it's the wrong column.
So here's the calculation for Joe's fit. He had 3 people, or I'm sorry, 3 allowances. $159.60 is what each allowance is. So this was the number I took to the tables. Do I have a second on this number, 9679.22? Great. How about Sally?
Yes.
Yep. How about Owen?
No, I messed that one
How about Kaylin?
Yes.
Okay, so Owen, we have a discrepancy on. Anybody else have a discrepancy on Owen? That got the right gross?
Yeah.
Okay.
I literally calculated 3 times.
All right, so Owen had 0 withholdings, right? So I'm down here now. The number I'm taking to the table is 2399.09 because he didn't have any withholdings, right? So let's go.
Oh, you're 219.95.
Yeah.
That's your final answer. Do you go up top? Never mind, I'm looking at mine.
Okay, so we're on, let's see, bi-weekly. Is he married or single? Okay, bi-weekly and single, and I'm taking 2399 to the tables. Oh, I don't think I did that right, did I? So it looks like his fit should be 171.34. Anybody with me here? Plus 22% of the excess over 1631. I must have gone to the married table. Does that look more like what you got?
Are you asking me?
That's,
I'm asking anybody.
Apparently I'm doing like 6.
Plus 22% of the excess over. Doot, doot, doot.
Oh,
yes.
yeah, so I did it right.
There we go.
It's closer to my answer, but I'm still off. I don't know what I did.
I don't know what to tell you,
Did
Josh.
that change all of your, like, did you have it all?
I had it, yeah, it's all formulas. Okay. OASDI and HI, Joe was over, so he had none. Nobody had hit the $200,000 yet because it's early in the year. So there was no additional 0.9. Was there? And Sally, Owen, and Caitlin are just a straight 6.2. Everybody else is the 1.45. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's your points.
You think 20 cents is a close enough round?
Yes. All right. These are the ones that I would anticipate are your points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points so far. So if you got gross on Joe, +1, gross on Sally, +1, et cetera, et cetera. If you got the wrong gross and you got the right fit on the wrong gross, see what I'm saying? +1. If you caught the Joe and Max out on RASDI, +1, et cetera, et cetera. And the other 4 points are on the 941. If you doubled, whether it's a right or a wrong number, the OASDI +1. If you doubled HI, +1. If you got fit, +1. And the only way you get 12 out of 12 is if you came within about a quarter of the magic perfect 941 deposit number. So there is no score 11 out of 12. You either got 12 out of 12 because you got down to the perfect gold star. If you had one thing off, you got 10 out of 12. 2 things off, 10 out of 12.
Does your fit totally adjusted after the adjustment?
No, I was updated. I had it all. I've got it all auto. Tell me how many you got out of 12 and circle it and put it on the top. I'm gonna just kind of come around and check off chapter 4. You're gonna turn in this, and if you can, just in the last 3 minutes, can you go to your start button and go to QuickBooks and go to QuickBooks Preview 2017, please, and see if you can get in.
So we're not turning in chapter 4, we're just showing you.
Yeah, I'm gonna come around while you guys are doing this. Where am I?